Get ready for Purpose Today with Dr. April Dobson. Ignite your spirit and fuel your passion for life with inspiring stories, empowering guests, and transformative ideas. Whether you're pursuing dreams, overcoming challenges, or seeking a spark of positivity, you're in the right place. Together, we'll explore resilience, creativity, and our limitless potential. So, sit back and prepare to be inspired. Let's unlock incredible possibilities on Purpose Today with Dr. April Dobson. Welcome to Purpose Today. I'm your host, Dr. April Dobson, and I'm very excited for our guest, our very special guest today, Alenka. She's the founder and CEO of SAHA Collective. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Looking for inspiration, motivation, and the good news of Jesus Christ? Look no further. The Daily Gospel Network has what you need. With more than 300 ministries from all over the country broadcasting every week, you're sure to get your dose of spirit-filled encouragement from the great programs on the Daily Gospel Network. Catch the Daily Gospel Network on Roku, Amazon Fire, Apple TV, all mobile devices, and the internet.
Welcome back to Purpose Today, and I'm very excited to have our very special guest, Alenka. She is the founder and CEO of SAHA Collective. Welcome, Alenka. It's a pleasure to have you on our show today.
Thank you so much for having me here.
You're very welcome. And, I really appreciate you taking the time to be our guest. And, I know that our audience is probably, wanting to know a little bit more about yourself. So could you share a little bit about yourself with our viewers?
Yeah. So I'm originally from Canada. I live in Los Angeles now. My background, you might want to know where the name Alenka comes from. So my parents were immigrants from the Czech Republic. And I have been a eldest daughter overachiever my entire life. And it kind of culminated into really horrible burnout a few years ago, and then turned into this beautiful purpose. That is what I'm building right now.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for sharing about yourself. And I do know that you had a very interesting journey. And so if you don't mind, could you just please, share information on what inspired you to pivot professionally and, insight regarding that experience?
Yeah. So like I mentioned, I had always, been doing the most for many, many years. And what happened was my body shut down in a way that I could not control, which is terrifying when that's, the vessel you live in, if you will. I was not able to do work. So my job was primarily to be on calls and to write a lot of emails, and I was barely able to do that. I ground my teeth so hard that I had shooting pain in my jaw. I thought I had an infection or something. And the dentist was like, no, this is stress. And I was like, oh, okay. No one has ever told me that that's something that can happen before. And so my body basically forced me to quit my job because I couldn't continue living that way. And I'm grateful that that was the extent of it. I've heard horror stories of people being hospitalized and all sorts of things. And I kind of went through this journey of trying to realize what had got me there. And then a year later, I stepped off a curb. It's never a good story. And I tore apart my ankle. And that led me down an entirely different path because I was doing everything the doctors told me to do. I still wasn't getting better. In fact, I kept re-injuring it. And so I said, I'm going to figure this out. I want to be able to live my life. I want to be able to go for walks without being scared, do things that make me happy. And so I went into this rabbit hole of researching for myself what I needed to do, and come to realize that it's not just, the ankle. It's also, I was not paying attention to where I was walking because I was thinking about things I had to do, or I was not really paying attention to the movement of my feet. It was just happening and I wasn't actively engaging things. So I would not really realize I had stepped on something that was unstable, or, on the edge of a pothole or whatever it was. And so I went through this learning of, I need to, if I want to live a life where I'm not going to constantly be injured, I need to change everything about my life. And that's what I ended up doing.
Wow. So thank you for sharing and being transparent about that experience. Prior to having those experiences, had you ever thought of doing anything different or doing anything of that nature prior to those experiences?
I mean, I had always been interested in human anatomy and physiology, so basically like how the body works. And but I would consider myself pretty healthy. You know, I didn't drink. You guys call it soda. We call it pop in Canada. I didn't. It would give me a headache, honestly. You know, was a decently healthy individual, but I wasn't as interested in my own individual health, which is very different, right? Like everyone needs something different. And I just kind of was getting by, if you will. You know, I was eating decently well, but not like changing things to accommodate what I needed. Um, I think it's one thing to have like a interest on the periphery. You're like, I'm kind of interested in this thing. It's another thing to let it consume your life and actively change it. And that's what ended up happening.
That makes sense. And I know it's very important for us to make the decisions, and not only make the decisions, but take active steps that we can, have to change, where we are and change our trajectory. So I know for some people that can be a little bit challenging. It can be daunting. Were there any challenges that you encountered when you decided that you were going to pivot, and how did you overcome those challenges?
One of my friends said something that has really stuck with me. And to be clear, I never planned on being an entrepreneur, and I never planned on changing everything about my life, right? These were things that I feel like were forced on me in a way that I couldn't say no. Um, so if we talk about my health, it got so bad that I didn't see another way other than to change. So like people don't talk about the mental toll it takes when you are not able to do the basic things in your life and how helpless you feel. And after 7 months of that, I was done. That was enough. I was going to do something about it. And then if we talk about it from a professional sense, I found that this problem of there's so many people out there who have tried everything that they have access to, and they're still not getting better. And yet we can book a vacation rental on the other side of the world. Like if you want to choose if there's a parking space on the street, or if you want to like a certain number of beds, certain sizes, you want to have like if you have a kid, like there are so many things that we can do, and that's so specific. But why can't we do something like that for our health, right? And I was like, this is not a problem I'm not okay solving, is what it ended up being. It became some people would call it an obsession, but it just became a thing that I was like, no, I have the skills. I have over a decade of experience building software for companies. I can do something about this problem and make a difference.
That's awesome. So how did you choose the name SAHA Collective? I know you alluded a little bit to it earlier, but what was the inspiration?
Yeah. So Saha, I was trying to find something that was easy to say, easy to understand, easy to spell. Like those are, and easy to remember. And it actually came out of a road trip with a friend. We were driving, or I was driving because she didn't have her license. And we were doing some research, and Saha came up. So in Sanskrit, it translates to together, or endure, or connection. And for me, we get through hard things together as humans. We don't get through it on our own. And so that is a really powerful thing. And I recently found out in Arabic, it translates to health or wellness, which I thought was really powerful as well.
Wow, that is powerful. And you said something that's very important. As humans, we don't do anything alone. We do things together. And that is amazing. I'm glad that you founded SAHA Collective. And, was there anyone who helped you as you were building this platform? Did anyone else help you to navigate through this in any way?
Yeah, I think I've been surrounded by a really beautiful community. And as I have continued to grow and build, that community has grown. People say networking is a huge part of building anything, and that has been a key focus for me. I have an incredible minority-owned development team out of Boston that is helping me build the platform, because I don't actually do development work. I design and I orchestrate, but I don't do the card coding. So they have been really helpful to me. I've had some really beautiful mentors that have also been helpful to me. I have an advisory board of a few different people who do, their background is in like law or corporate, and now they're more in the wellness space. Um, there's a long list, but there's a lot of really beautiful people that have been so supportive. And I will say that my providers that are a part of the platform have been the most supportive of, they're my biggest cheerleaders, and it's so beautiful.
That's wonderful. That's a wonderful community, a lot of great partnerships. And I think that's key when people are starting a business, when people are making pivots. It's good to, partner with the right people in your community. So thank you so much for sharing that. I know we might have some viewers who are just wondering, well, I know that there's a platform, and I know that you have a network of providers because you mentioned that. But what if they're wondering, what exactly is SAHA Collective? How does the platform work? Could you share a little bit more insight on that so that our viewers have a better understanding of SAHA Collective?
Yeah, so Saha was born out of this need of, like I mentioned, people who aren't finding answers with the information that they have, with the often it's in conventional medicine. Like I always like that should definitely, start there and then do your best. And if you're not getting anywhere, then that is up to you. But I'm trying to offer an option for that, right? And so what I'm building is a matchmaking platform that uses a series of things to give you options for people you may not know that can help you. For example, I only recently found out that some Pilates can help you with back pain. I had no idea that that was something, or that acupuncture can help you with stress. I had no idea, right? Like these are all really um, interesting and helpful things that I think you may not know. And so what we're building is this matchmaking system. And so I we had to start with something really simple because it's hard to um, it's expensive. Let's be clear here. It's really expensive to build something, and so we had to build the smallest possible thing. Give me one second. I'm just trying to share some visuals here for everybody. Okay. Um, Perfect. So here is what we're starting with. So this is the prototype. So the prototype is just the matchmaking system, and then the full version will have a lot more bells and whistles. And so what happens here is if you're the average person, you enter in a short form, and then we put your information into the matchmaking system. That includes shared values, current needs, your lived experiences, as well as your symptoms and many other things. It does some fancy calculations, and then you get a results page with the recommended providers, and you can book with those providers' existing booking links. This entire process is completely free. Your participation helps us refine and tune this matchmaking system. Same thing goes for the providers. The providers are able to enter their information. It goes into the database, and then that is sorted in the matchmaking system. So that's the.
Fantastic.
Sorry, go ahead.
That's fantastic. I have a question because you said something, and I think it's going to be very important for us to highlight for the viewers. And one of the things that you said, because I know people are accustomed to looking for a provider and explaining their symptoms that they have, but you said a couple of things that really stood out that I think will be very important for our viewers. You said your shared values and your lived experiences. Can you give some examples of shared values that might be values that our viewers might have that might be important when they're considering a provider, and maybe some examples of maybe some of the lived experiences so they kind of have an idea of, what's the range of things that could be considered in this matchmaking process?
Yeah, so I think it's really important when I kind of looked at what was working, not just for me, but for people in my life, and having conversations with people. There's a lot of reasons why when you meet with a potential health provider, things may not work. One of them is your values aren't aligned. And when I say values, values is a big word, right? It means a lot of different things. But for me, values can also be like, I just want relief. I don't want to do a bunch of work to change my life. If you're meeting a provider who's like, you need to change your diet, you're like, everything about your lifestyle, that's not aligned if you're not in the place where you're ready to do that, right? And so that's one piece of values. I also have a value sliding scale where we have people. It's a sliding scale. So on one end, you have more conventional, on the other end, you have more open to the universe. On the conventional end, you'll have conventional in this world is a little different. You'll have like chiropractor, massage, acupuncture, functional medicine, and then the other side, you might have things like breath work, meditation, etc. And then other things fall in between, therapy, life coaching, like those all look different. And so then we use that, all of that matchmaking, as well as the lived experiences, to your point. So if you're a parent and I'm a parent, your experience as a parent could be very different than my experience as a parent. And we then match that with things like we have a long list, and we're going to be expanding this list as well. But if you have a history of, let's say, PTSD, if you have a history of if you've been in the military, if you're divorced, like all of those things impact how your worldview looks and what your experiences are. And so we do our best to match you with someone who's had similar experiences and they understand how to work within all of that, because it all matters, right? Like you're a human, you're a complex being. Let's treat you that way. And then part of those lived experiences as well is we have three other things. So we have religion, political views, and ethnicity. And so we also match you based on all of those things because it matters, right? Like if you I see this all the time where somebody might be more open to a certain type of thing, but then they go see someone, they're like that. I don't connect with that person. And so our goal is to kind of make this as easy as possible to have that connection. It's going to be a learning process. We're all in it together, right? Like it's not perfect, but the goal is to treat you as a whole human and not just a list of symptoms.
That's awesome. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. So, what else would you like to share about SAHA Collective? I know it's very robust, but please feel free. Anything that will help our viewers gain additional insight on how SAHA Collective works.
Yeah. So this is the prototype. Like I said, is just the matchmaking, and what we're going to do when we launch next year, so in 2025, is have a full platform. So if you think of it from a provider lens, it's kind of like business in a box was the wording someone used with me the other day. And so you'll be able to go in, see availability, do bookings, be able to do HIPAA compliant video chatting, do direct messaging with providers, all the way through to like rate and give feedback post appointments. And it takes care of all of that for the providers. And it also includes matchmaking, right? Obviously, that's the core piece of it. What is really important to me as a part of this is we are not charging anyone to be listed on the platform, and clients don't pay to be able to find providers. You just pay for the appointment as you would in any other way. And we take a percentage of that fee, and that covers the cost of everything. We will be launching this not only direct to the public, but for employers to offer as benefits to their employees. So if that's something you're interested in, please feel free to reach out to me. And then one of the key pieces I think is really important is the SAHA fund. I don't think it's okay that healthcare right now, the way it's built, is only available to people who can afford it. So we're accounting for that in how we build the system from day one. So like I mentioned, a portion of the appointment goes towards the SAHA fee, and that fee includes a donation to the SAHA fund. And so the fund will be about 2%. And if you calculate that then you get 50 appointments equals one appointment gifted. And so we'll be able to offer this to people who wouldn't be able to afford the services otherwise.
That is awesome. I think that is very impactful. And, I think that it's awesome that SAHA Collective doesn't charge any fees for clients and patients and customers to find a provider, and that it doesn't charge a fee for the providers to be listed. I think that's amazing. And the fact that there's a certain percentage of every appointment that's donated to help to provide care to people who would not otherwise have access to care, that's amazing. I know you have an initiative that you're doing, some days of giving that you're doing in the month of December. Would you like to share a little bit about that and how that works for anyone who might be interested in that?
So to celebrate the prototype, we are doing 12 days of giveaways. This will run from December 1st to December 12th. It is a really beautiful initiative. So I've asked the providers who are on the platform if they are open to it. And some of them are gifting their services to be part of this giveaway. There will be a series of bundles. It will also be bundled with small, medium businesses as well. That are, wellness adjacent spaces. So I have like some really exciting, like a company that does like ethical sourced jewelry, someone who's doing hemp dog toys. I have some like healthy drinks that are, like they're really delicious. I tried some a couple weeks ago that are non-alcoholic. A series of like a wide variety of things that will be bundled in to these giveaways, and it doesn't cost anything. It's just you sign up for the bundle that you're interested in, and then we'll be gifting or announcing that shortly after the 12th.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing that insight. I know there are a lot of people who can share this information. So viewers, feel free to share this information. Feel free to register for the 12 days of giveaways. And thank you so much for sharing that insight. I know that you talked earlier about people can find providers. Are the providers concentrated in a certain part of the United States, or what areas do you have providers who have already registered in? And in the future, what areas will be available for providers and clients?
So actually, this is something I'm really passionate about. So as a Canadian, I have a slightly different worldview, meaning we're doing this globally to start with, and there's a lot of different reasons for that. So there is a higher concentration within the States. I will say we have providers that are coastal as well as like really like right in the middle, and they're all spread out across the United States. Most of these providers offer their services virtually. Right? So make it a bit more accessible. Obviously, certain things you need to be in person for. And so so my perspective from building a business is like, it's important to use data, and it's important to understand what that is. So we'll be able to, as we get more data from people visiting the website, we'll understand how to expand and where to expand to. And so, one step at a time. When you're building, you have to do it carefully. And so that's how we're doing it. But I also have providers in Canada, in Australia, in the UK, Dubai, Estonia. And there's a lot of different reasons for this. First of all, expertise comes all over the place, right? Like we know this. There's a lot of great expertise all over. Another thing is because of the way that the economy and, currency conversion works, it's actually 25 to 30% cheaper to hire someone, generally speaking, in Canada or Australia than it is to do it in the US. And then another fun thing about this is, Canada, the time zones are pretty similar, but Australia, you can book someone in like US evening. We're just going to, generalize those time zones. And it'll be in Australia, their daytime, meaning you don't have to take off time from work in order to see them. And I think that's something a lot of people have a hard time fitting in their wellness and taking care of themselves when they have to work, right? Imagine like you're a mom and you can put your kids to bed and then have an appointment to take care of yourself, right? Those are the types of things that we're accounting for. In the results screen, we tell you, we use zip codes to do time zone overlap matching. And so in the results screen, when you have your options for providers, it'll say this person's available your late night, your early morning, your midday, and then you can kind of choose what makes the most sense for you.
That's awesome. I love that you have that flexibility. I love the fact that you have providers all over the world. And I think that's amazing. So I have your website that's, scrolling if anyone is interested, visiting sahacollective.com. But what about other contact? How can people connect with SAHA Collective or connect?
Yeah. So you can reach out to us on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. It's saha.collective. It's just me. This is, you're just going to be messaging me directly. If you want to send an email, it's info@sahacollective.com. Happy to, chat with you. I think it's really important to connect and get feedback. So if you have any thoughts, I would love to hear them.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And is there anything else about yourself or about SAHA Collective that you would like to share with our viewers?
Yeah, I think one of the really beautiful things that has come out of this is that there is a lot of power in turning your pain into purpose, instead of letting your pain rule you. And I think that is something that I've really spent a lot of time thinking about and taking time to process. And in that, you earlier had mentioned, like, was it hard to get here? Yeah, it was. I spent 6 months avoiding launching this because I was scared. There was a lot of imposter syndrome going on. I think there was a lot of I was there. It's not an easy thing to do. And so I think for anyone who's, struggling with something that they want to do or they feel drawn to do, my biggest um, the biggest sentence, if you will, there's better words for this, but you know what I mean, is your mission stronger than your fear? Because if your fear is stronger, then that's going to be hard to get over. But generally speaking, most of us know that the mission of whatever we're doing is stronger than the fear we have around actually getting it done.
I agree with that. And, it's just been such a pleasure speaking with you, Alenka. And, I agree that we need to make sure that we don't allow fear to prevent us from doing what we're dreaming about doing, what we're purposed to do, what we're passionate about. So thank you so much, Alenka, for taking time to join us today on Purpose Today and sharing all this valuable information with our viewers. And to all of our viewers who are watching around the world, we really appreciate you and we thank you for watching. So thank you again, Alenka. It's been such a pleasure to have you on the show today. That was an amazing interview with Alenka with SAHA Collective. And just as she said, it is important to ensure that you are pursuing your purpose. If you feel that you need to pivot, but you don't know how, I invite you to email us at admin@purposetoday.com. That's admin@purposetoday.com. I do want to encourage you to fulfill your purpose every day. And we have someone who wrote in who had a question, and we're going to just take a look at that question that one of our viewers had. So the question is, would you pick a job that made you $16 an hour and you really enjoyed, or a job that you feel is mediocre and paid about $30 an hour? So I know that there might be people who are in a situation that is similar to that. And I really encourage you to do what you love. I encourage you to do what you feel purpose to do. And for anyone who is in a situation of that nature, I encourage you to do what you love. I believe that if you do what you love, the money will catch up. For a person who's in that instance, I would recommend taking the job with the animals that you love. You can always start a business. There's always other things that you can do. And so if you feel that you need to pivot professionally and you don't know how, email us at admin@purposetoday. We would love to have you as a guest on the show, talk about your situation, and walk you through some things that you could do to pivot and to live a purpose-filled life. So thank you again. Really appreciate you all for joining the show today. And we invite you to our next episode on Purpose Today. Well, we will have a very special guest. And so we invite you to tune in on Monday at 7 a.m. for another power-packed episode of Purpose Today. So thank you very much for watching. Make it a purpose-filled day and a purpose-filled week.
Thank you for tuning in to Purpose Today with Dr. April Dobson. Our mission is to ignite your spirit and